Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
We're going to begin with the Miami Heat because Mike Ryan last night was a junkie. Mike Ryan was like looking through purses, trying to steal stuff that he can pawn. He was looking through apps, trying to find the Heat game because he found out that they were a little bit ahead of Boston. They're so injured that Mike Ryan went to dinner last night instead of watching the game. But then he heard they were close, and what happened was immediately he needed rehab. Like he just started searching every crevice, looking to snort Miami Heat basketball. He just is looking on apps. He's watching games on computers. He's like, what's happening? Is Deion Waiters back? No, I hate Deion Waiters again. He's 3 for 11. Trade him. What's Maple Bleep doing?
Because if you're Mike, what you're thinking there is Deion Waiters is having a big game. He knows everyone that's injured, and he's thinking to himself, wow, we're competitive with the Celtics in Boston. Deion must be going off. He did not go off.
Not exactly. No. Boston hasn't been very good lately. They're 4-4 in their last 8, but you win Boston. You win that game on the road.
Don't you do that. That's
what was the spread in that game? 12, 13?
I think it was like 250, Dan.
Yeah. Okay.
No Whiteside, no Dragic, no Johnson, no Winslow. No problem. No problem.
Are they still under 500?
They're 16 and 15.
Yeah, man, game over. Cruising now.
Right there.
Oh, you said one game over. You didn't say game over, which is the way I'm thinking of it. Like they have no chance this season. The game's over.
Both apply.
Man, they're a game and a half back of the 4 seed in the East.
We own the C's. We own them.
Yep.
Own them.
That would mean Eastern Conference semifinals against the C's. How about that?
I'd like to see it, but we've seen a lot. The thing that we have seen a lot during a regular season is a 7 or an 8 seed comes into somebody else's building, beats them by 1, or has a 2-1 record against them in a season, and then thinking that means anything in the playoffs. The Celtics are a lot better than you are.
Yeah, well, Kyrie Irving didn't make the shot. He had a good look, didn't make it.
Yep.
But you know the Celtics are a lot better than you are. You want them? Do you want them? Do you want them in the postseason?
I know I wanted them last year. It's a little different this year.
Yes, but let me ask you this question. In the first round, if I tell you you can have 4 against 5, this is what I'm saying about last night's win, and I don't mean to diminish it. It is a good win to beat Boston on the road under any circumstances, but certainly under those conditions. So this is not a urination on your situation.
And 2 out of 3 against the Celtics.
Yes, but what I'm asking you is, what do you prefer, 4 against 5 or 1 against 8? When the playoffs start in the first round, do you want Boston? Or, it might be 1 or 2. Do you want... I don't know if Boston's going to finish first or second in the conference, but that's where they're going to finish, right?
Yeah, you'll get Boston and the Cavaliers if you're the 8 seed.
Okay, but if I tell you that Boston is what you're getting it as a 7 versus a 2 or an 8 versus a 1. Do you want that, or do you want 4 against 5? Do you want a Washington? Do you want a team that is less good and you'd have more, you think you might have more of a chance again, even though it's all about matchups?
I'd rather have the 4 versus 5 and face the Celtics in the Eastern Conference semifinals.
I fear no man.
You went to dinner last night with me and didn't watch the game.
I checked out on the season after that Hawks loss.
But now we're back. Yeah.
There was a Mickey. Yeah. There was a Walton Jr.
Yeah.
It's like, who are these?
You know
this
what's
Mickey
funny?
Guy is good.
No, you know what's
Mickey.
funny?
It looks like a player.
Let me explain something to you about
Put it on
how.
the poll. Does Mickey look like a player?
Put it on the poll. Well, there are funny things here because I know you guys are mesmerized by Bam's athleticism.
Yeah.
And there are times offensively where you get very excited by Bam.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to measure this exactly, but it seems to me that his defense kind of stinks because all I saw at the end of that Atlanta game in important moments is Kent Bazemore going to the rim with no one there.
Right.
Like just going to the rim. All these important shots, heightened game. You got Kent Bazemore just laying it up right at the rim because Bam's out of position. He's not blocking anything. He's not in the right place. I don't know what he's doing late in the game.
Yeah,
he's 19.
Yeah, he's still learning. I will say
he doesn't look 19.
No, he does
doesn't.
not. No.
He doesn't.
Wait a minute. Did put this on the poll, Guillermo. Did they make 19-year-olds who looked like Bam when you were a kid? When you were a teenager? I've never seen that. Were you kidding me? That guy is about as athletic as anyone in the league.
Yep.
And how is he 19? He looks like he's 28 and has been driving a truck for a decade.
Wait till you see the University of Miami's recruiting class. early signing day was yesterday.
Yeah.
There's a dude that's just moved into his fourth single-family home.
They're bringing in men now?
Dude, you have to see this fullback.
They're bringing in men?
Dan, Mike showed me a picture of the four recruits, but in particular, this fullback who looks like he's entering his 9th season in the NFL.
All right, bring it to me here, and you will get a reaction in real time with no video, only audio. To what? Wait a minute. So Miami's bringing in the men now? They're getting some of the Alabama guys?
Wait till you see the 2 tight ends. We got the number 1 and number 3 overall tight ends in the same class in the nation.
Woo!
I can't tell which one's better. They're both humongous.
Mothers must like Rick.
Maybe. Yeah, they got running backs too, right, Mike? Like 2 of the top 10 running backs I think they got?
Yeah, they got Cam Davis and Zoe Lingard.
This is an interesting conversation. This one is interesting. What does it buy you, Stugatz, to be a overtly religious man who's giving off peace and principle and morals and character when you're walking into an inner city home where religion really matters?
I think it buys you a lot. And then you combine that with the history of the university, that football program, and some of the fun stuff like the turnover chain and the success they had on the field this year of beating Notre Dame at home. That's a pretty powerful sell.
That's pretty exciting. The idea that you have, it's pretty cool, too, that you have a coach whose principal system, because you could say whatever you want. You'd all be shocked if Mark Richt found himself in any kind of scandal.
Yes.
And you want to send your kids to that man, to that, not to that man, but to something that feels like that. Like, oh, this guy's actually going to try and take care of my kids. Now, they're going to be self-interest that get in the way of that. Like, I thought Mark Richt did a very bad job last year by Richards. Like, all year, I don't think that kid's body was taken care of. They kept needing him and using him, and they didn't help him last year. So mistakes are going to be made. But that a religious man's intent, or that a pure man or a guy who's aspiring to be holy, that his intent is to walk into your living room and tell you in a real way that doesn't feel like a lie, I'm going to take care of your kid. And that's a religious household. Yep. And he's talking about God and he's talking about faith.
You got a good chance. You got a good chance of getting the kid and the parents being comfortable sending their kid to that guy for 4 years.
All right, so Mike Bryant is now going to show me a picture. What are you doing here? Tell me, you're in this room now, and tell me what you're showing me.
I'm showing you a picture of Rayleigh George, the fullback that the University of Miami signed yesterday with their star-studded backfield.
All right, fullback. We got a fullback. But what fullbacks? Who cares about fullbacks?
I care about this fullback. Yeah, he's the best in the country. Yep.
Who is he bigger than here?
Everyone.
Okay, but what are the positions of these other people?
With running backs. Yeah, they're Lingard, he's ready to go. That's Cam Davis, who's ready to go. But look at Lingard. That guy's put together, man.
Yeah. Exciting, man.
Yeah, they're bringing in men.
Let me show you these tight ends, though. These tight ends.
The tight ends. Oh, forget it. The tight ends. The tight ends.
Look at that. I'm going to show you the picture first.
Oh, my God. Tight ends. 2 tight ends. Oh, they're men.
I think that's photoshopped.
No, what do you mean photoshopped? What are you talking about, man?
So many tattoos.
Guy looks older than Martellus Bennett, man.
So Miami's getting players now?
Oh, man.
They're getting men.
Men.
Not just players, men. And a lot of them.
That's what it felt like in the old days when Jerome Brown was going to the 50-yard line and everybody was scared of him.
Now, that was just early recruiting, right? They'll have actual national signing day, too?
I like this early signing day thing.
Yeah, it's cool.
It gives less time for other schools to be shady and change kids' minds.
That is a cool thing. Butch Davis is going to join us here in 10 minutes because Mike, how did this happen? Why is Butch Davis coming on with us? I mean, put this on the poll, Guillermo. Is Butch Davis jealous of Lane Kiffin?
I think that's what is at the heart of this. Butch, who's really good friends with our friend Marty Smith, was reaching out to...
I love Butch.
He was reaching out to Marty trying to get on. And he didn't reveal his intentions. I think he's trying to play it off like he just, wants to do well for his program. But I think he sees our relationship with Lane Kiffin and is demanding equal time.
That's fair. Like, I mean, well, we don't have to do that, but I have a relationship with Butch. I don't have a relationship with Lane.
Right.
And so I understand why he would want that. I'm happy to do that.
Can I ask him that if he's jealous of Lane Kiffin?
You can ask him, but he's not going to, well.
Maybe he will.
Maybe. Yeah, yes. You can't know you can't know until you've asked.
Okay.
So.
I think I'm going to ask.
Cool.
And I think he's not going to answer. and I think it's probably pointless. That's a great point by you.
Well, but your prediction,
I'm glad we're talking this out beforehand.
Well, but Mike had a prediction yesterday that he's embarrassed by. This prediction that you've had about how this interview is going to go or how this question is going to go, Mike had a prediction yesterday. Mike, do you remember the details of your prediction before we went into that Rob Manfred interview?
Yeah. I said, I think he's going to surprise you, Dan, because you were saying how it was going to be contentious and possibly combative. And I was saying, no, man, Rob Manfred, this dude gets it. He's an affable dude. I think he'll do very well, present himself very well. I think he might even sway you a little bit. It's going to go really well.
Well, this is interesting. Let's talk about this.
Nailed it.
Let's have the show meeting right now.
By the way, it did not.
It did not. No, it did not. Yes, it was contentious.
I said.
Let's have the show meeting right now for the rest of this hour.
All right. With the exception of we don't want to involve Butch Davis in the show meeting, do we?
Right. We'll take a pause in the show meeting. Maybe we'll ask Butch Davis what he thinks. But let's have our show meeting for the next hour about what the next 3 hours are going to be, because this is actually an interesting societal and social. It's a symbolic. What we're trying to do at ESPN as being the anti-establishment outfit that's inside of the establishment. Right. This has been an emotional week for me for a lot of different reasons, and one of them is because the man who hired me to do this job entrusted me with the power to do what we did yesterday as a form of sort of shaking ESPN, shaking the cages at ESPN so people can see that, hey, the commissioner interview on Mike and Mike doesn't have to be this gentle infomercial.
Right.
But the things that's complicated about this, and this part I get, right? There are things I could have done better yesterday, okay? My tone could have been better. I could have been less agitated. You guys know, you guys know it's been an emotional week for me, and I don't do a lot of emotional weeks. B, you know how much I care about this city. And, yeah, it's the only city I've ever loved, and I care about representing it. And I told you guys when we started this radio show and took it national that I wanted to bring Miami with me. And so yesterday was us at the height of everything in our world, doing our job, but it was deeply uncomfortable. For me, too, by the way. Many of you think John Morales came after me, the weatherman. You don't want that guy after you. He's a kind man. Everyone loves that guy.
Oh, yeah, your Q score isn't as high as John Morales.
Right. But he's coming after me because he thinks it looked like grandstanding and that I wasn't very nice to a decent person. But I'm tired of powerful people at this network, people, commissioners or power, not at this network, in sports, powerful people getting away with the things that they want to get away with. And so I just wanted him to come on here and answer some questions and tell the truth. And this is how it went. And if you want to know why it escalated, this is why it escalated. So Manfred is coming into this situation, and I am assuming his PR people have told him, look, this is a hostile market. This radio show is unpredictable, and they're mad. So I'm assuming someone, when he agrees to the interview,
sure,
when either he's
prepped for the interview.
Well, if you guys don't know how all this happened, okay, this has been building up for weeks, and we're going to do it to Bruce Sherman next. Like, we're going to do it to the new owner of the Marlins next, because I want to hold the feet of powerful people to the fire. And I want to see what it looks like, and they can answer how they want. They can represent themselves the way they want, but I want South Florida to have some answers.
You're going to smoke out Sherman?
That's right. Smoke him out.
All right.
We're going to figure out a way to do that during the show meeting. Maybe we'll ask Butch Davis. So what happened yesterday is I was not looking for look at me. I was not looking for a fight with the commissioner. I was not looking for a big spectacle that brings attention to me. Sometimes I've done that, not very often, but this was not one of those times.
I was looking for all those things.
Well, you were very tough, too. You came in right behind me. You were throwing punches. You were throwing haymakers, too.
I was trying, yes.
Although you wouldn't know it from the coverage.
No, you would not. And what's been interesting for me since this has all happened is I am doing interviews because I was simply the guy in the room. I was the guy that was close to the guy. They're asking me questions about you. I don't know. Get Dan on the show. What do you want me to do?
All right.
Golick asked me how I felt about it, and I said Dan was uncomfortable, and I was right where I wanted to be. Right in the middle of it.
Wow, that's astute of you. Yes, because I didn't know that you. Yes, I was deeply uncomfortable. You guys don't believe this stuff sometimes. People think I'm very look at me. Like, why would you be on television and radio unless you were someone who was really look at me? But I'm deeply uncomfortable with everything that happened yesterday. But it's the job. It's a great job. Look at all this stuff this job has afforded us. But the job, journalism, is the job, or the career I signed up for is get the truth.
Right.
Things went pretty sideways right off the bat because he started with, 2 World Series championships and doing what you would expect. And to people that don't have the proper context, it seemed like you jumped on him probably too quickly. I think we should have done a better job of establishing that you're a journalist and you actually knew that what was being told to you wasn't
I
exactly
knew when
accurate.
I was asking him. I knew and have it documented that this all came across his desk, and he was parsing lawyer semantics by saying, they don't tell me that they're specifically going to trade Stanton. But when they tell you, when they show you their operating budget that gets submitted for approval, an operating budget that I've had access to,
right? When
they show it to you, you can see that the only way they can get to the numbers that they have is to trade Stanton and everybody.
Right.
So while they didn't consult with him, hey, can we trade Ozuna? What they did do with the commissioner of the league is get approved by him and the owners the right to slash the payroll again to South Florida. And so because I knew that, I asked him that. He wouldn't answer it yes or no. And then when he did, he tried to cover up the truth. And so I kept asking for a yes or no answer. But where this started was, I will tell you where, and I want to figure out over the course of the show how to have things to reel me in because I'm emotional. If you can have sounds or something that reel me in, because I know my tone gets too passionate and I get upset and it's not a good look for me. Yes, that's good. Anything
works.
Like that. Anything that's
works.
good for the show. Yes, that'll
shorten it up a little bit.
Or longer. You got to reel me in. Do you have anything anything else that would reel me in? What is that? Is that the same thing?
That's the exact same sound.
It seems like that would be like an easy fish to reel in, and I think you would have a bigger struggle with Dan.
So this is
that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other sounds? All right. Let's think of other ways to do this because I don't want my tone to get bad today, but I'll tell you where that interview went off the rails. And it went off the rails at the beginning, but it didn't go off the rails at the beginning because of me. The commissioner of baseball came on this show, interrupted me, corrected me, and tried from the start of that interview to bully me to get me to back off at the start of the interview so my questions would be softer. You get out of here, dude.
Dan Lebatard.
561, eat it!
Stugats.
Eat it, 561.
This is the Dan Lebatard Show with the Stugats.
Pause up, Coach.
Pause up, Butch Davis. Yes, pause up, Butch.
Exactly. Good to be with you guys this morning. It's a pause up day.
It is a pause up day. It's the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl, FIU versus Temple tonight, 8 p.m. on ESPN. And I feel ridiculous saying that, the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. Do you get free stuff, Butch? What did you get? Did you get a mower? Like, do the coaches get mowers?
Yeah, we got some T-shirts. We actually did. Shea Magoo, our starting offensive center, won the lawnmower driving contest. It was kind of like a miniature version of NASCAR, up and down hills around bales of hay, and so we took the first trophy away, winning that lawnmower contest.
Okay, so wait a minute, but what does he do? You can't give the players lawnmowers, right? Nobody can.
No. There's no. But it was a blast. I mean, a bunch of people. They had celebrities from the crowd that joined in. They put 5 people on a team, and I'll tell both of you. Obviously, when you go to these bowl games, there's a lot of events, and the kids have had a blast this week. Spent some time at Busch Gardens, and then did a lot of other things. A big, huge beach party and everything. So it's been a good week.
All right. Well, let me, Butch, give some preface here to the audience and to you on what it is that I'd like to do here. Now, Butch Davis, I've known Butch Davis for a long time. He's been very kind to me for a long time. He's a good man who you never hear anything bad about Butch Davis. Nobody in 30 years, 40 years in football will say anything bad about Butch Davis. But he's one of the first interviews I ever did as a reporter where he let me into his office. I think, were you the D-line coach at Miami? Or were you the defense? No, the very beginning. Were you? I know you were but were you the defensive line coach before you were the coordinator?
Yes.
So I remember him using the phrase, I'd never heard it before, I want my men playing like bowling bowls full of butcher knives. I'd never heard the expression before he used it.
That's not right, Stu. Nope. It's a rolling ball of butcher knives.
Oh, I heard you. I misquoted you. So I started my career by misquoting Butch Davis.
That's a fun.
All right. So
sorry about that, Coach. Pause up.
All right. So here's the deal, though, Butch. We Lane Kiffin is at FAU, and he's getting a lot of attention because Lane Kiffin is kind of crazy, and he's really red, and he says things. And so I feel like I want to have you on more often, but can we treat this as like an interview for the position of Butch Davis replacing Lane Kiffin on our show because he's so entertaining? Can we do that?
Sure, absolutely. What do you want to do, Stu?
Let's have some. Stu, I don't think that's where you want to turn. We just want to interview you.
Pause up.
Yeah, he just wants to yell pause up. That's all he wants to do. So can we reminisce a little bit about the Miami days?
Sure, absolutely.
What is the one time that you were? What are you laughing at, Mike? Hold on a second.
He keeps calling you Stu. I don't think he knows who you are.
No, Butch Davis knows that I'm Dan. He's talking about Stu Gatz. He knows I'm Levitard. I think he knows I'm Levitard.
Pause up.
What do you mean he's not calling me Stu?
Yeah, but
Stu.
You're doing the majority of talking, and he keeps responding Stu, and
yes.
So he knows you. Yes, right. See. Yeah. Right,
he's
bad
trying
start,
to be, he's trying to, it's not a bad start. He's trying to be inclusive.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if he's trying to do that.
All right, well,
I think
ask him what he's trying to do.
Butch, what are you trying to do?
I'm just trying to be inclusive with everybody. I've known Dan and both of you. I've listened to you on the radio for probably, at least 25 or 30 years. And, when Dan was when he was a reporter and writing for the Miami Herald. So, you guys are almost like family.
All right. So
that works for me. Pause up.
So when you were at the University of Miami, Butch, what was the time that both the lowest point and what you would deem the highest point, where you would be there and you'd be like, this is the best I've ever felt, and this was the worst I've ever felt?
Yeah, probably the 1997 season going into the last home game. Miami had not had a losing season. I want to say at that time it was like maybe 15 or 20 years, and we went into the final game of the season. We were 5-5. Depleted with the scholarships as it was the end of the sanctions and the probation. We'd lost all the 31 scholarships, playing with a lot of walk-ons and young freshmen, and had to play that game. And just absolutely, we lost the game. We could have won it and maybe, potentially even become bowl eligible if we'd have been 6-5. That was probably the lowest, but and then obviously probably the highest clearly had to be beating Florida in the Sugar Bowl, and with a minor outside opportunity. At least the New York Times named that team the national champions, which we probably should have had a chance to play against Oklahoma instead of Florida State, since we'd beat them head to head. And that was probably the highlight of the years that I spent at Miami.
All right, so this is a key interview question to replace Lane Kiffin, Butch. If you had played in that national championship game instead of being denied that national championship game, what would have happened?
It would have been a rout. Miami playing for the national championship in Miami. I'd been fortunate enough to be a part of some of those when Jimmy was the head coach and we played in the Orange Bowl against Oklahoma for the national championship. I think it would have been. That team at that time was so talented and so confident and playing so well, and we were healthy. I think the way in which we played at the Sugar Bowl against, the SEC conference champions, the Florida Gators, I really believe that I think we would have won that game. I don't say maybe a route's too big of a.
No, don't back up. No, if you want to beat Lane, don't back off on that, Butch.
We would have won it with double digits anyway.
All right. Now, Butch is playing tonight in the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. It's FIU versus Temple. It's tonight at 8 p.m. on ESPN. He has done a very good job at FIU. They are 8-4. They were second in the conference, and we will talk to him about what's going on presently in a moment. But I want to talk a little bit more with Butch about the Miami days. Lane told us that when he was at Alabama, he'd just walk on the field, and he knew Saban, and he always had the best players. Like that they had 2 or 3 guys warming up who weren't even going to play for them that were better than the guys on the other team. Who was the guy on your team where you knew, Butch, in those days, we've got a bunch of guys that, when you stepped on the field back then, did you know that you always had the better players?
Yes. Yeah. It was certainly the last season, but because at that time, guys like Reggie Wayne, Andre Johnson, Dan Morgan, Damian Lewis, we were loaded. Ed Reed, you knew that if those kids showed up and played, and which they did every single Saturday, more than likely the other team had no chance.
I've got a question for you here that might be difficult for you to answer.
Sure,
Butch Davis again, Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl tonight. A successful season for Butch at FIU. They play Temple tonight. But when you left and you left it to Coker and it rolled, and you probably knew when you were leaving that it was going to roll. What would have happened differently if you had just stayed? Would you have ever considered never leaving Miami?
Would you still be there?
Now that you're back, do you question the decisions you made, even though you made it to the pros and got all that money?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. I mean, I've been on record of saying that it was probably the worst business decision that I've ever made, and I really had no intentions of actually leaving. And there was just, there were some things behind the scenes that made it. Some was the money, and then obviously some were some of the contractual things. But in retrospect and looking back at it, you'd have loved to have been there and gone through the ride of the whatever it was, 33-2, and playing for 2 more national championships, and trying to figure out, if you'd have continued to do that, how great it would have been to maybe have stayed another 7, 8, 10 years.
What do you think would have happened? Because your mentor, really, Jimmy Johnson, I can call him that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your mentor knew that he had to taste the pros, and knew it because he knew himself well enough that he said, my ego needed it. My ego needed to go test itself in the pros. So you had the lesson in front of you. And he doesn't have regrets about it because he won. But everyone I've ever talked to who makes decisions like this, if you don't win the championship, you end up chasing it forever. So I'm curious, did you consider your own ego in that? Like, were you saying, man, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe this is just my ego talking. I need to prove myself in the pros.
No, you know what, Dan, to be honest, because I had had a couple of opportunities to leave for some super high-profile Power 5 conference type of college jobs, turned those down, had some interviews and some feelers from other NFL teams during the 97, 98, 99 seasons, and turned those down. And just, I was happy. I was thrilled to be the head coach at Miami. Had spent, eventually I spent 11 years there, and was rooted in the community, rooted in the, in the high schools and the recruiting and all that kind of stuff. And, and like I said, in retrospect, I wish it would have turned out differently at the end of it, and I would have stayed.
Coach, we have some fun. We love Chuck Pagano. We have some fun at his expense. Is he a little crazy?
Chuck? Oh, no doubt about it. We just texted the other day, and Dan, you'll love this. One of the last years that Chuck and I were at Miami together, it was coming up on Christmas. You could recruit, and we actually stopped at Cracker Barrel to do Christmas shopping. And I texted Chuck the other day. I said, "Have you been to Cracker Barrel to get your wife Tina a back scratcher for this year's Christmas and stuff?" He texted me back, and I've been around Chuck since probably 1985.
Wait a minute, you guys were buying Christmas gifts at Cracker Barrel?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Really?
Get some CDs and a back scratcher and some lemon drops, and you can get it all there.
Right, like $20 too. He's right.
Who would you identify as the craziest coach Butch Davis has ever coached with? Is it Tony Wise or is it somebody else?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, Tony. I can tell you, I promise you right now, Tony Wise is sitting someplace and he is watching It's a Wonderful Life. I think he has seen it like 25,000 times. I mean, he starts watching it probably about September 1st, and he watches it almost every day leading up to Christmas.
Yeah, it's insane.
That group of guys, for both of you, I mean, they were awesome. I mean, Wanstead, and obviously working for Jimmy and Tony Wise, and we had some crazy guys in Dallas. Joe Avizano was spectacular. Joe Brodsky was as funny as you could ever imagine. So, was fortunate enough to be around a lot of really great guys.
Butch, would you be kind enough, again, because we're interviewing you to replace Lane Kiffin on this show, would you be kind enough to tell us the story? Because the statute of limitations is up. The wild night that the Hurricane coaching staff had. The really wild night where you guys were rolling through New Orleans and it was just a gang of fun-havers.
Oh, Lord, I don't know if it would have been in New Orleans.
No, wherever, Dallas, wherever.
Yeah, wherever.
Probably in Nassau in the Bahamas with Jimmy on a staff trip or something like that, where it was just guys, Jimmy, him and how much he loves fishing, being out in the sun and taking the coaches and their wives and him paying the Bahamian driver on a boat, just saying, do one thing. I'll give you $100 for like every hour or something like that. I do not want to be under a cloud. Just follow the sunshine out in the ocean. And, it was a blast. I mean, 15 years working with Jimmy, I can tell you it was highlights of a lot of my life.
You left out the Heineken. What can you tell me?
Oh, please.
Yeah.
It goes without saying. Yeah.
Okay, it goes without saying.
No, there was an extra vote for
that. Can you tell us the angriest you ever saw Jimmy Johnson specifically with you? With
me personally?
Yes.
Oh, Lord. I mean, it happened from time to time. I mean, it didn't happen often, thank goodness. I really can't think of many times that Jimmy actually just, blew up on me specifically or anything like that. Maybe, I can remember him talking one time about Charles Haley when we got Charles Haley, and it was like we were kind of starting to flirt with some of the fire zone things and where we were going to drop Charles into coverage, and Jimmy kind of came over, and you knew when he was serious about something. He's like, "Hey, look, we didn't pay that dude $2.5 million to come here to drop into coverage. We paid him to get sacked." He said, "I don't want to see any schemes where he's dropping into coverage."
Yeah, and it's good advice. Like he's certainly right about that.
It was perfect advice.
He's had a right to be angry. The Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl, FIU versus Temple tonight. How many of the guns did you get when you had the gun rule at the University of Miami? What percentage of the guns did you get when you had to make the gun rule? Hey, everybody gives me their guns.
I don't know that we ever collected any guns. I don't think I ever even asked for them.
Oh, no?
Oh, really?
I thought I remember that from a 30 for 30. Do I have that wrong? I might have that wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
I don't know. I mean, guns, that may have been somebody's, assessment or assumption, but, we never, we talked about obviously being, changing the culture, changing the image of the program, because both of you know that when I got there in 1995, it may have been the most hated program in America, the Catholics and the convicts and some of the things on the field and off the field. And, it took a while, to change the culture, but I think the end result was it turned out pretty damn good.
That's a fine, Dan. Pause up.
All right, tell us about your team. It plays tonight. Temple is favored against you guys?
Probably. It'll probably be about the 9th time this year that we've been an underdog. I think Las Vegas, at the start of the season, I think they predicted that we would win 3 games. So it doesn't surprise me if Temple is the favorite. They're coming from the AAC, and they're talented. They're big. They're physical. They, recently in the last couple of years, they've had 2 10-win seasons, so they've got a lot of the talented players left from the recruiting at that stage. But our football team, guys, just the one thing about them is that these kids love to compete, and they've showed up every single Saturday. They've played their hearts out, and it won't surprise me tonight if they'll do exactly the same thing. We've kind of got a little bit of a motto that when the game's over with, no regrets. Do everything we possibly can to give ourselves a chance to win the game. Alex McGoo, our starting quarterback, guys, I honestly believe this. He is a terrific leader, but he's an excellent quarterback, and I think he's going to play in the National Football League. And he's just absolutely had a super senior season.
Coach, I'm interested in how this works with you. Are you jealous, because you've been doing this for a long time? Are you jealous of the attention that Lane Kiffin's been getting?
Nope, not at all.
There you go. Right. That's a good final answer.
I was hoping you would talk some smack.
No, it's
Lane
a good
Kiffin.
interview. Maybe next time. We'll have him back for a second interview. You want to come back for a second candidate interview for the job to replace Lane Kiffin? You haven't gotten the job yet, but you're going to get another interview.
Absolutely. I'll be on with you guys anytime you'd like.
Butch, I do love you. Thank you for playing along with us, buddy.
You're welcome, guys.
Good luck tonight.
Dan Le Batard.
He and I hugged vigorously upon seeing each other because it's been a long time since we saw each other. Well, I've had too much to drink at this point, but I'm also just fingering. What the hell word was I trying to say there? Lingering is the word I was looking for. My lingering hug with.
It is an awkward hug.
Yeah. Well, and now the story gets good.
Stugats.
Now I'm explaining to them in his company by holding up next to his face my phone with a magazine article I wrote about him next to his face. And it's got a happy ending. Well, that's not the phrase I should use either.
Geez, God, man. Jeez.
The story has
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats.
So what did you guys think? Butch Davis, I really like Butch. He is affable. He has good stories during a great time in Miami sports, but he's not quite as reckless and dangerous as Lane is. He doesn't volunteer what Lane does. What do you remember about leaving Tennessee? I remember things burning, and then I don't ask a follow-up question, and he says, and I've only been there twice since, both with Alabama, and each time I was trying to score a point for everything they burned. Like Lane is more dangerous.
Yes, he is. I enjoyed it. I thought Butch was pretty good there. I think competition makes everyone better, and he knows he's competing with Lane Kiffin, but the texters seem to like Lane more.
Let me ask you guys this question. Since yesterday we made national news by not liking to be lied to, do I have my information wrong on, I thought there was a 30 for 30. The reason I remember this story, and maybe Butch has to do this because you can't be on the radio joking when you're a recruiter of kids, joking about things like guns, really, right? Like Lane might, but Butch doesn't want to go down that path.
No.
But I thought I remember something in the 30, maybe it was the second 30 for 30, where Butch Davis had a rule that everyone had to turn in their guns. And the reason I remember the story is because I was sitting next to Butch during the watching of the movie, and I remember him turning to me and saying, I think I only got half. And so is my information wrong or is my memory bad? Because it could be either of those things.
No, there was a time in the 30 for 30 where they documented asking players to turn in their guns. Mm-hmm. The I only got about half was a private conversation between you and
probably.
Butch.
Yeah, but nothing is a private conversation with me unless you say it.
No, nothing is private with Leaky Faucet Tard. And honestly, even if you tell them it's private.
Yeah, then everything's on the road.
It has some danger.
It's still,
but it's not leaky. Wait a minute, it's not. It's the worst kind of leaky faucet tard because it'd be bad enough. All of you know that I'm not going to repeat things away from here or gossip. I am not a gossip. The reason I am leaky faucet tard is because if you say something in this environment while we're talking, and I don't think it's actually going to cause you any harm other than shame, like any real harm, then everything's in play for content on the show, and everyone around here knows it. Like that's sort of part of the construct of the transparency of the show.
Yeah, we know you can't be trusted, so
we're aware.
We know,
and yet I keep talking. It's weird.
I mean, it's not weird. It has been wildly rewarding for everyone involved here.
That too. I'll keep talking then.
So that's where we are with this stuff. I do want to talk about this commissioner stuff yesterday because I think you guys think I enjoyed that, and that's a fine. Stugatz.
What's the fine?
I heard your phone vibrate.
But that's not a fine for me.
If it's on vibrate, no, it's a fine for everybody. If your phone goes over the air, it's a fine for everybody. But did it vibrate or did a sound come from it?
No, it vibrated.
No, I heard it.
But it vibrated. That's because I had it laid on the console here. That's why you heard it.
Yeah. The mics didn't pick it up. If the mic picks up your phone.
If that's the rule, that's fine. If the mic picks it up.
So does Dan get a fine because he fined me for something that's not a fine?
No, that's only a fine for you. So now that's a fine.
Now it's a fine.
I was just asking a question. I can't. Now asking questions is a fine for me?
If you frame it in a question.
No, that's not a fine. He was asking a question. That's fair enough. That's fine.
However, it is a fine for me if I start making up rules on the fly, and I just did that, so I'll pay one.
Okay. We were going to get to $1. However, it's kind of like what the baseball did to the Marlins. They were going to get to screwing South Florida. It doesn't matter how they were going to get there. We were just going to all watch the path happen. Like, I think one of the things that people don't understand, because it's been interesting, Stugatz, like Boog got mad at me yesterday. Not mad at me, Leaky Faucet Tard. Boog said it was a bad look for me. Max Kellerman reached out and said, you're so many different kinds of wrong. And the argument I was having with those guys is, and Max Kellerman's a Yankee fan. I'm like, guys, the Stanton trade, I don't care whether they traded the right fielder or not. The part that concerns me and the part that I see happening in real time, and because I have access to some of these documents, Jeter has created a fail-proof system for him, but not for us, not for the people who built. They just gave Jeter an ability to make money no matter what. He got in, didn't pay very much, brought in like Michael Jordan for $5 million, just brought in some rich friends for nothing, doesn't have the real money, and isn't investing the real money you need to.
And he's paying himself.
No, but it's not even that part. See, this is where the commissioner got yesterday, and he didn't realize it until we were in the middle of it. And I don't know if you guys realized it. He didn't realize that I knew that Jeter had this contract clause that he will be paid based on his profit. He didn't know I knew that. And so that's where you heard, I don't recall, the lawyerly deposition stuff. But if I had started there, he would have known how much I knew, which is why I started with, did you know that Jeter was going to slash? Because then I could have gone two ways with that question. If he says, no, I didn't know, then the question becomes, wait a minute. The overseer of this league and this market, meant to protect the sport and this market, didn't know he was selling a $1.2 billion bad business, allegedly, to a shortstop, didn't do any checking on what he was going to do next. Like, that doesn't even make sense.
No.
But what got admitted there by the commissioner, to me, when he's saying, no, I didn't know, what got admitted, it put him in the position where now he's got to argue on behalf of tanking. He was arguing a commissioner was arguing on behalf of the benefits of tanking, first of all.
Right.
And the next thing that he did is he just admitted to you that, and he was admitting it by telling what I believe to be documented, not a truth. He knew, I think, based on what I've seen, not circumstantial evidence, based on what I've seen and the people I've talked to, he knew that there was going to be, in this market, a payroll slash. And so I wanted him to say it. Once he denies it, now we can all see the commissioner just admitted that he's not overseeing how these sales happen in specific ways to protect South Florida.
Right.
He just admitted that he allowed all of it. And he knows it. He knew it in real time. And that's why he got agitated the way he did. I would have been a lot better off if I had just kept pounding the facts instead of pounding the table.
Sure. Now, when he sees what their payroll,
You're
that
a
was
writer.
You're good.
That's
and
a cliche.
Setting up questions
That's
for the next question.
It's a cliche. That is not a writer. That's a cliche. People say when you have the facts, pound the facts. When you don't have the facts, pound the table.
Pause up.
But you guys understand what happened there, right? And so my greatest concern here, Stugatz, because I have not seen a clause before quite like this. I've not heard of a clause before where Jeter doesn't have to go to his partners and ever ask for cash and be rewarded for it. Like all of these people who have put in the cash are going to get paid at the expense of us. And this is what I'm telling you. And this is the greater concern. As Boog and Max are lecturing me about whether it's a good trade that Giancarlo Stanton got traded, I see the pieces in place here for what Sampson and Laurie and baseball conspired to do to Montreal, where you just wreck it and you just bleep it and you just bleep it until it's dried up and then you take all of its money.
It's gone, right.
And then it's gone and you built it a stadium and it's gone and then they blame you for not supporting the team. And that's what I see happening. And Boog and Max are lecturing me and my tone is getting bad again. Mm-hmm. Reel me in. Boog and Max are lecturing me about a right fielder and an MVP. And I'm sitting here saying, no, what I'm fearing here is that we built these people a stadium and they're going to leave in 20 years when Jeter fails and it all blows up and they're going to blame us.
Right.
They're going to blame us for being a bad fan base that can't support baseball when all you've been doing is using South Florida as a prostitute the entire time. And sometimes the sex is great. 2 years, the sex was great.
Oh,
memorable.
Awesome.
We all thought we were falling in love with
it. He pointed that out.
Hey, you remember those 2 times?
Oh, yeah, that was great. Those 2 nights. Those 2 nights were great.
I mean, how long can you cite something that was 15 and 20 years ago? There are people that you're asking to pay money that don't remember those World Series.
Oh, Mike, it's an easy thing to say, though, if you're the commissioner.
But that was so long ago.
But here's the thing, though, Mike.
It's like the Dolphins coming out and saying the 72 season.
Mike, this is what I was telling you at the beginning, but when we headed down this path, and this is the thing that I want the audience to see, and it's why I want to smoke Bruce Sherman out, too. And I want powerful people to have to answer uncomfortable questions on the radio. Like it's the reason that I'm doing all this with varying degrees of success, right? Because we do this show sloppy and we're going by the seat of our pants. We don't mind if we get into trouble. And I'm sitting there arguing. Like this stuff gets complicated, man, because I'm arguing on the air with the commissioner of the league in a way that might be embarrassing and contentious to him, but ends up being exceptional content for ESPN, even as we're partners with baseball and Manfred in ways that are contractual that make it hard to do the journalism. Because we have a conflict of interest. We care about how Manfred feels. We shouldn't. And I don't. I don't. I don't care whether I'm being delicate enough with Manfred, who allowed all of this,
right,
while protecting the community that I love in the one arena where they've given me a little bit of power, like in this silly sports arena.
Sure. I mean, I'm biased towards you and us, of course, but I don't think, I feel like you were well within your right. I feel like you asked the right questions and you handled it well because, you did. This was about Miami. Rob Manfred tried to control that interview from the start, and that's not going over well with you. It's just not.
I know,
anyone who knows you knows it's not going over
I don't care as much about the micro as I do about the macro, and I remind me to articulate it this way nationally because I want the national audience to eat this. You have to understand that my anger does not come from the trading of an MVP because I think that's what a lot of people think when they call me a whiner and a crybaby and a and everything else that they're calling me right now. What I'm worried about is what happened in Montreal, which is the only other time I've seen a clause like the one in Jeter's contract. Like, it's the only other time I've heard of such a clause. Now, maybe there are more. I don't know. I don't know all of the clauses in baseball. But the only other time I've seen it is when you're reading Jonah Carey's book and when you're reading about the stuff that happened with the Expos and Sampson and Loria. The only other time I've heard of how the Montreal lost the baseball. They're going to blame this on us in 20 years. And go bleep yourselves, man. Go bleep yourselves. Like, in 20 years, if baseball fails down here, they're going to say it's because we were a bad market. And it's like, no, it's because you kept bringing your bad business down here and making money off of your bad business in a way that rewarded that bad business without ever correcting the behavior. And it makes us lose our team.
Right. They will say that. The market couldn't support baseball down here. I don't get it. It's this simple. Rob Manfred gets their business plan. It says they're going to slash payroll to this. And doesn't he ask them, how are you going to get there?
Correct.
Tell me, how are you going? How do you plan on doing this?
He said, but so
the people down there have been screwed over 4 times. How do you plan on doing this?
And so what I want to do, respectfully and funny, I want to point this out again and again over the next 3 hours with this machine that ESPN has given us that is in bed on baseball on some things. And I want to continue to show the commissioner the error of his ways on this. And I want to show everybody. And the discomfort in it is that many people are yelling at me and saying I'm a jack and a cry and everything else. And what I would tell you is that, yes, on behalf of my city, kicking and screaming against any powerful person.